On the October 21st meeting of the Conestoga Valley Board of School Directors, I want to welcome everyone that's here. Glad to see so many of you, as well as those that are joining us online. Will you please join me in the pledge to the flag? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Martin, can we have attendance, please?
We have 8 school directors present tonight. Mr. Getzel is absent. We do have a quorum.
Okay. Now, we also have in attendance the superintendent and the administrative cabinet. This is our second meeting of the month. It's the one where most official votes are taken, many of which are listed on the consent agenda, which includes those items which are routine or have been discussed at our work session last week. Are there any changes, deletions, or additions for the agenda?
Yes, we have several changes that occurred today. Superintendent's report has 2 changes in our coaching staff after the public posting. They are noted in red. The consent agenda, we have several items there. Item A, the approval of the minutes. September 9 minutes were updated due to a typo error. Item H, Ephrata Mennonite School, we have an updated contract late this afternoon with the correct termination date. And item R is the IU13 ESL services contract, Amendment 1, late receipt of that agreement just today was added.
I'm sorry, would you give me what R is again?
R is the IU13 ESL services for our CTC students, amendment to the contract, the original contract.
Does it up the price?
Did it up the price?
They adjusted it based on the actual number of students. So the first agreement is
Does it
an
up the
estimate
price that we approved before, is what I'm asking.
from the original agreement, maybe slightly by like 1 student. Okay,
Because technically, if it involves spending more money, we can't add it at the last minute. I'm not quite sure how to handle that. I think we'll consider it de minimis for right now and leave that on. That would make it A through R.
Yes, correct.
If I get any sort of complaint, we'll go back and reapprove it, that's all. That said, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
I so move to approve the agenda, please.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed or abstentions? If not, the agenda is approved. We'll move on to board commendations. Congratulations to Conestoga Valley High School students Charlotte Eby, Corey Blacken, and Jason DeChristopher, who were named commended students to the 2025 National Merit Scholarship Program. Of 34,000 commended students were named nationwide for their exceptional academic promise. The Conestoga Valley Virtual Academy announces its Students of the Month at the secondary level for the month of September. Students of the Month are chosen by their teachers. Congratulations to Maddie Johnson, an 8th grader at Gerald Husker Middle School, and junior Lily Splain at the Conestoga Valley High School. 30 students at Conestoga Valley High School were inducted into National Honor Society on September 17th. The newest inductees were comprised of 10 seniors and 20 juniors. We congratulate the 2024 inductees. NHS is a service organization for juniors and seniors based on the ideals of scholarship, service, leadership, and character. Congratulations to Conestoga Valley High School junior girls tennis players Jade Flores and Paula Valverde, who were named Lancaster Lebanon League All-Stars. Conestoga Valley was the lone Section 2 team with multiple players named to the All-Star list. Conestoga Valley High School announced its PBIS Character Education Buckskins of the Month for the month of September. The trait for September was respect, and 1 student per grade was recognized. Congratulations to Natalie Hopka, senior, Colson Irva, junior, and Raul Camacho, a sophomore, and Lalani Tony Rivera, freshman, who were voted upon by their peers and staff. They were recognized for the demonstration of empathy, open-mindedness, accountability, and patience. Superintendent comments. Dr. Hartman.
Yes, good evening. My comments will be brief tonight because I've been out of the district for most of this past week, as you're aware. I was attending the Lancaster-Lebanon County Superintendent's Fall Study Council in Washington, D.C. So I just want to take a moment to thank the board for being supportive of allowing me to attend that. I know it's tough to be away from the district, but it really was a good professional development opportunity, spending time with the other superintendents from our local area. We got participated in a lot of leadership development activities. We did a little work with the Schlechte Center, which is an educational nonprofit that focuses on leadership development, and also they have a strong focus on student engagement and helping districts build frameworks to increase engagement. So we got to do a little work with them. We visited the U.S. Department of Education and got to meet with the Deputy Secretary of Education, which was pretty exciting, as well as some other staffers. Talk about some of the latest and greatest in policy and different initiatives coming out of the U.S. Department of Education. And then we did a historic presidential leadership tour that was facilitated by Mike McGuff, who is the gentleman who who I used last year. We brought him in for our admin retreat when we did a tour of Gettysburg. He does a nice job tying in leadership lessons with U.S. history. And then we ended our trip by getting a tour of the Pentagon, which was very interesting. I've been to DC many times, and that's one place I've never gotten to go inside or seen behind the scenes, and it was pretty impressive. So just thank you for allowing me to participate in that and supporting my professional growth and my professional development. And other than that, there's no new professional staff to introduce this evening, but just take note of my superintendent's report, as we do have quite a few approvals tonight for guest teachers, student teachers, substitutes, volunteer coaches, and some other critical positions. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any board comments on recent activities? If not, Mrs. Martin, do we have any correspondence?
The breakfast invite laying on your table there, you can, instead of responding to Lauren, you can just email me and let me know if you're coming or not to the senior breakfast.
That's our senior breakfast in December. And those of you who qualify as a senior, if you don't have a gold card, we encourage you to sign up and get one. That takes us to Dr. Kozer, who's back again with the modern curriculum update. Those of you who may have checked your agenda right away on Friday may have found that the attachment for this and where we vote were turned around. In other words, what we're voting on later is actually the specific curriculum for each of those grade levels. This is the overview. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, good evening. So we will do introductions so you know who all is at the table this evening to help us share a little bit about the math curriculum. You know Dr. Mann, you know Dr. Metzinger, you know me.
I'm Maureen Davis. I'm the math specialist at Smoketown.
I'm Molly Doherty, Smoketown third grade teacher.
Ariane Gorniak, Brownstown second grade teacher.
So last week, Dr. Mann and I gave you an update on the Modern Learning Curriculum Project as a whole. We walked you through the 4 core areas, the work that's been done. Tonight, we're specifically focusing on the math component. So we brought some of our teacher leaders here, our math specialists, elementary math specialists back there, to answer any and all questions you may have and give you just a little bit more of a specific understanding of the scope of the math project and the impact that we're seeing across the district. So to get started today, Dr. Mann's going to walk you through some of the K-12 pieces that we put into place as part of this curriculum redesign.
So as we began this process, we got together a K-12 group of teachers to focus on the importance of math. And so when you look at this vision statement, this is true for kindergarten class up through calculus. So when you think about the vision for the district, some of the things to point out would be the bold letters or bold words up there. So when you think about math, focusing on things being complex, raising the rigor of our math, and helping our students understand the process behind math, more than just doing math itself, why you do it and why it's important. And looking at how we focus on problem solving and going through that process and getting to a point where hopefully you enjoy math. And it's one of those things that it's something that every single one of us needs, depending on our jobs and our responsibilities at various levels and so forth, but it is an absolute need that we all need to be proficient in.
As part of the process, as a K-12 team, we also came up with our long-term transfer goals. And so this was July of 2023. We had a group of about 35, 40 teachers who came together and said, these are our 7 big goals, that at the end of the day, every learner who comes through our math classrooms, this is what we want for them, to be able to be college-ready, career-ready, post-secondary ready for whatever path they choose. So I'm not going to read all of these to you, but you can see they're right in line with the vision statement that Dr. Mann just shared.
So then came, the development of our instructional approach. And when we did that, we looked at different ways of how we wanted to do the teaching. And as Dr. Mann said, if you look at the bolded words that are there, we wanted to get beyond just the memorization of facts and the steps to do things, but for students to understand the process and be able to apply that beyond what they were being put in front of them. And using different strategies, using different tools, figuring out what worked for them, because we all don't do math the same way. So, and then being able to, as teachers, take that and have them realize that whatever they're learning in whatever class they're in, that's going to carry with them beyond that classroom. That we want them to be able to tie it to the CV profile learner and then be able to, explain that even, because it's different than the way we did it.
So going back to our process of design and development, Ariane loves the picture in the middle. Yes, I did say, give me a good pose that makes it look like writing curriculum is fun. And I think they nailed it, don't you think? I was super happy with that. They're excited, they're fascinated by math curriculum work. That sums up our project, right, Ariane? But we did involve our teacher leaders at elementary. We have math team leaders that have been working over this past year. And again, this is really where we put the emphasis of our ESSER funds around elevating instruction. And so this is just a couple of the examples of the powerful work of educators collaborating with one another to produce the documents and the units that you see in front of you in board docs today.
When you think about the purpose, it all is wrapped around our North Star, which is our profile of the CV learner. So when you think about the profile, how do we get the profile in a meaningful way in every classroom, in every lesson? And so as part of this rating process, that is one of the main focuses. How do you get that meaningful integration of the profile, where appropriate, in the various lessons, specifically here in mathematics?
Okay. So one of the ways that we do that, when you look at the next one, is with the modern learning curriculum, is having tasks that actually make an impact. So just in those pictures right there, this is an example of one of the tasks that 5th grade did, where they were learning about volume. So each 5th grade student was asked to bring in a dry good, and then they measured the dimensions of each of those boxes and calculated the volume, and then those dry goods were then donated to CVCCS. So I always say it wrong, CVCCS. I know, I did, I practiced, I promise. Received a very nice donation right before Thanksgiving. There you go. So Susan was one of the classroom teachers that actually did it, so at that time.
Did they spend time learning the difference between the volume of the box and the volume of the contents inside?
Yes.
Little did we know, right. But not only are our students having an impact on their community through these performance tasks and through the implementation of the profile, but we're starting to see the impact now on student success. And so what you're looking at is our grades 3 to 8 combined proficiency in PSSA. And so you can see that already we're starting to get that upward swing after several years of a dip, K to 8. And so we're excited to see the data starting to reflect the work that our teams are doing with the curriculum, but then also with our resource. And so Dr. Hartman, on the next slide then is just the elementary data, because remember, this modern learning curriculum came at the same time that we also adopted the Stepping Stones resource as our core day-to-day, what we're using to implement the curriculum documents. And we're really excited, and Mrs. Kapka, this goes back to our conversation last week, we're really excited to see in the last 2 years that we've had a 9% increase in math proficiency at the elementary level since implementing Stepping Stones, which is pretty remarkable considering most times when you implement something new, you experience what's called an implementation dip, meaning you actually decrease in proficiency as teachers learn something new and become familiar with a new resource. And so I think this just speaks to the incredible work of our teachers, the strategic implementation of our math specialists, the high levels of support that they were able to offer, and the work of going through this curriculum design process while looking at a new resource. And so bringing in those performance tasks, applying the competencies of the profile of a CV learner to what's happening in our math classrooms every day. So we are really excited about this and very, very proud of this data for sure.
Can I ask what happened in 2014-15?
Standard change.
Yes, that's a great point. That is where we changed to the new Common Core standards. And so that was the big drop. So we're always looking at, we want to be back up to at least our highest point where we were after transitioning over to the PA core standards and then start moving beyond those numbers.
Is this because it changed statewide?
Yes, yep,
I just want to make sure we realize it wasn't that CV suddenly stopped teaching math.
right, no,
Right.
no.
No, it's really a target that moves
Yes,
and
I know.
shifts. So you really, it's hard to measure it over time when you're,
But I knew at some point there was a big change, and I couldn't remember if it was the testing or the standards, and that's about when standards came in. Just want to make sure we all understood what that was.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. So we're very proud of our scores. We're also excited because we're getting a lot of buzz. Conestoga Valley's name is out there in such a positive way right now in the math community. These are our elementary math specialists who recently were asked to co-present with the Origo Stepping Stones team at the National Council for Teachers of Mathematics Conference. And so they did a phenomenal job representing the district, talking about the new curriculum, talking about how we implemented the Stepping Stones resource as part of that project. They've also been asked recently to partner on writing an article for an educational magazine about Conestoga Valley and about our implementation. So there's a lot of really positive buzz out there. And again, I just have to say kudos to the math specialist team who is here, our building leaders, and especially our classroom teachers who have really just taken this resource and made really cool things happen, which you're going to see in the rest of the slides. So our teachers are going to talk a little bit about that, about what's different in our classrooms. How are we getting these results? What's changing with the way that our students are learning and interacting with mathematics? So Molly and Ariane have a few things they'd like to share.
So first of all, I'm a 2003 CV graduate, so I can tell you this is far from how I learned math, but I made it out just fine. But I enjoy teaching math more than how I used to learn math because of this program. There's strategies and math discourse that students are having every day in the classroom that's brand new. You know, we're teaching them to take risks and help each other, and it's not about just landing on the correct answer as fast as possible. So it's been a really positive experience to teach and for the students.
I would say I was skeptical in the beginning because teaching second grade, I had things that there are core things they need to know and do, and I was kind of stuck in that algorithm phase. So when doing double digit addition and subtraction, it was interesting to me that we do not teach the algorithm. And so I was wondering how our scores would go when that is what the test is, and that's what all of our Acadians is looking at just how you were adding and subtracting. And I was amazed that my scores last year were the highest that I've ever seen in 20 years of teaching, when we had never gone through the old algorithm, but they truly understood what the numbers were and their place value, and then teaching the multiple ways of what works best for them, whether it was a number line or place value. And so they were adding things that I never even thought of, why would you add that way, but they were doing it quicker than I did. So it just gave them that responsibility to make their choices, but then also their communication and collaboration with each other, that with the program of what we've been doing, they're able to say to each other, I don't understand how you got that, can you explain that? Or I disagree with your answer and I think it's this. And so they're respectfully agreeing and disagreeing with each other all throughout math class.
Which then, like, I see when I'm going through different classrooms, and it's interesting to hear the kids using the different strategies and talking about them, and knowing that that translates back to what we want them to carry out with them. We want them to be able to collaborate with others. We want them to be able to share ideas without forcibly saying, no, I'm right and you're wrong. Like, to have that back and forth. So one of my favorite things is knowing that, you know, there are teachers out there that were like, I'm not a math person, I can't teach math. And they're excited about teaching math and seeing what's happening with the kids too. So that's a nice way for the teachers to show that they are lifelong learners, because they're saying to the kids, I never did it this way before, but I'm learning how to do it too.
So the curriculum piece falls under, the next slide, Dr. Hartman, falls under the learner well-being, achievement, and belonging component of the comprehensive plan. So that's the big area. We're specifically looking at those subgroups of students and starting to analyze, are we closing the gaps for all of our learners? And so to do that, we knew we needed to have this standards-based curriculum that really guides it. And one of the hallmarks of this new curriculum are the performance tasks, the measuring volume, the donations to CVCCS, the real-life authentic tasks that students are engaged with in the mathematics classroom. And so Molly and Ariane are going to share a little bit too about their approach with the performance tasks, and then the students that are learning as well.
With the performance test, while they are centered around the profile, and some maybe lean more towards collaboration, some may lean more towards global citizen, they reach into every area. But what's nice in making our curriculum and having a hand in it is having the different levels and types of the performance task, because one year to the next is not the same group of kids. So it was nice that when we've been creating them, it is still a performance task that is tied right back to the profile of the learner. But I know my class and what works best for last year's group may be different. So we're still doing the same performance task and we're still doing the same type of thing. But I'm able to cater it towards my students and what's best for them. And even in my classroom, I can differentiate out, because you may do this performance task and somebody else is doing something different. So everybody is still getting the same learning goal based upon what's best for them.
My experience with the performance task has been, you might enter a louder classroom than normal, first of all, because there's a lot of creative thinking occurring. I also shared with the team that as excited as kids get, you have to kind of also steer them in the correct direction. So to echo a part of what Ariane said is, last year's performance task may not have made the cut completely for this year, because we're like, wait a second, that's not the direction we wanted the kids to go in. How can we adapt this and make it better? Which is a benefit of being on the team, which is a benefit of going back to my grade level team, and explaining that to the other teachers. You know, are we getting out of this the profile components that we want. So it's been a learning process, but the kids are really excited.
So that's elementary. Let's hear a little bit about the impact at the middle school level.
Absolutely. So I wanted to highlight, this is a sixth grade activity that the pictures are on. They are gearing up for a performance task. But one of the things that they have been focusing on is personalization in math class and increasing the collaboration opportunities and for students to actually talk about what they're doing. And what you see here is what we're calling lead learners. So a group of students actually trained, brought manipulatives in, and they ran the stations for the different students in preparation to get ready for their student performance task. This allowed the teacher to do some math chats and some extra check-ins, but just the leadership and collaboration that came from this was, it was so special to watch. Students stepping up and teaching. They brought their own supplies and manipulatives and really took ownership in that. The next slide is an example of one of our eighth grade performance tasks. And this is really where we're trying to connect it to real world connections for the students. So the students working here are tracking on a graph, bike exercise and traveling time and even the cost of maintenance with the bike, and they're working together to different areas. Our seventh grade, it's not pictured here, they are beginning this week their taco truck. So they are actually going to design a business with a taco truck, but they have to do the menu and then which items cost more, less, how the tipping and the cost of food and everything goes into their taco truck task. So it's just been really neat to watch the students take ownership and then connect it to real world things that they're interested in and that engagement at the middle level.
And so we're talking about these performance tasks. These are just a couple of examples. Maureen, if you want to walk through the elementary ones.
Sure. In second grade, basically, and some of these are interesting because you might wonder how are they actually tied to mathematics, because in this one, it's a shape art gallery. So the students were given choices of materials, all different kinds of materials, and then they had to create something from it. But then they needed to be able to identify 2D, 3D shapes, and then they made a little display, and then they did a gallery walk, and they talked about the different pieces to one another. And so they were able to, verbalize the vocabulary that they learned, the different components and pieces of each of those shapes, what are their attributes, things like that. How many did they use? And then we even had some that were becoming art critics. Like, that might have been better if you had done this, okay? But it's all this give and take communication. And then the fifth grade, this one was a huge hit. Could you be a CV track star? So they got a chance to look at some of the track records that are held by our previous CV or maybe even current CV students. And then, of course, every fifth grade student thinks that they are faster than everyone else. And so they actually go out and they time each other, and they have stopwatches that go to the 1,000th place. And then they have to rank themselves, and then they use those. Well, if you're only going to the 100th place, like, how does that round? That was fun, and the kids had a really great time, and they were doing lots of things math related that didn't feel like math, but then they realized that they might not be quite as fast.
The eighth grade example is the picture that was on the previous slide, but that's Sheldon's journey, and they are looking at qualitative graphs and how what each mark on the graph means. And so one of the areas we've been trying to incorporate in is the students being able to write a written response or explain in writing what they are solving, or explaining just how they got there with their math answer. So this one really has the students describing what's happening, why it's happening, connecting it to what they're seeing on the graph.
So intentionally embedding the profile CV learner rubrics in the modern curriculum. What that has provided us is the opportunity to work grade level to grade level and make sure that it is just that intentional, that it's not by accident, but it is by design that we are pulling out and drawing students to these different competencies throughout the programming. In a couple of years, 2-3 years, we'll see, we're gonna update our report cards so that we're reflecting more of this type of information on there as well. In the past, we used to have like work habits and things of that nature. We'll make that shift to being more around the profile of CV learner rubrics. So, tonight, we are seeking approval of the redesigned program, CADA through Algebra 1, from you, the school board.
Questions or comments? Based on our presentation from last week, we did put that on the consent agenda for this evening. I have one question. When you switched to stepping stones, was there a lot of, could you give me some idea of how much professional development that required?
That's actually what the focus of the presentation was that the math specialists did with
Yeah.
stepping stones, because we implemented in a very unique way.
Yeah.
We really slowed things down. We took our time. We spent a lot of time working with teachers, just getting familiar with the resources. We didn't actually start using the program until the second trimester. So those of you who are elementary parents, if you remember the 1 year where the report cards, we were like, hey, we've got a lot going on with math. That was that year, because we intentionally took our time and really made sure our teachers had opportunities to get to know their first unit. We got substitutes so the teachers could sit with their math specialists for 2 to 3 hours to just really dive into their first couple of weeks of instruction. And we didn't go the traditional route of in August, hey, welcome back. There's 100 people in a cafeteria. Here's your new program. Go teach it in 2 days. We really slowed that process down to make sure people have what they need. And then throughout the year, throughout that first year, continued with coaching, professional learning. We have a team of math team leaders who are teacher mentors in mathematics that we've worked with to build their capacity to support the schools. And then we also offer our summer professional learning sessions as well that have been very, very well attended by teachers.
My next question would be, how do you handle a new teacher moving into the district? They don't have that much time to do that kind of in-depth personalized.
I can address that one because right here at Smoketown, we had a teacher hired this year. Her first day was today. So I went in, introduced myself to her. She's like, a little overwhelmed, but she's like, I haven't taught math in a couple years. I was like, that's okay. You have great team members, and I still have all of the training materials. And so we are already setting up a schedule so that I can sit down with her. I will go in, co-teach with her. She is getting time to go observe other classrooms. And then I'll just work with her pretty much in a little faster format than we did it originally, but in the same way where she'll get to learn the main components and get comfortable with that. And then we start adding in other pieces until she feels
My
comfortable.
concern is that the students in that class be kept up to
Yes.
speed with you.
Again, I can tell you that my daughter is in that class. I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, please do. We're watching, folks.
That's right.
Will this be rolled out this year?
We are actively in the process of the teachers using all of these course guides.
May I comment? I'm probably older than most of you.
Almost.
This is exciting because I've heard so many, and I'm gonna say particularly boys. Why do I need this? I don't get this. I don't, But also for my own self in algebra, I could get the answer, Then I had to figure out how to make it work with the formula that the teacher wanted.
That's interesting.
Uh,
You
So-
would have loved the Stepping Stones program,
Yes,
Kathy,
I-
yes,
I
yes.
mean, hearing that, so, yes, I'm very impressed, very pleased with what you're doing.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you guys. I've been involved in curriculum writing in a different context, and I know how difficult it is, and I appreciate the effort and the time is unbelievable. Thank you for your dedication for that. And I especially appreciate all the themes and threads that went into like the CV, the profile of the CV learner. I think that was very intentional. I very appreciative. It makes sense, even from an outside perspective, without knowing all the ins and outs. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
It also reinforces the work of the people that develop the profile. We've been able to apply that to so much curriculum work and it's still relevant.
Yes.
That
Yes.
works well. Anything else? All right, then thank you for your time. We appreciate you coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When will this be approved? Next cycle, next month?
Tonight.
That's on our consent agenda too. At this point in our agenda, we take public comments on any agenda issues. If there are none other comments from CVEA or other employee groups, if not, we're down to the consent agenda. Items A through R, as was explained that we added R. I will bring to your attention that the Award of Excellence is now ready to go and is on our consent agenda. There was something about P I wanted to mention. Oh, that's the learning curriculum, item P. Are there any concerns or questions about the consent agenda? And if not, I will entertain a motion for it.
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda A through R with the changes.
Thank you. We have a second,
Who was the second? Me.
Dr. Martin. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Martin?
Aye.
Mrs. Fisher?
Aye.
Mr. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Talley?
Aye.
Mrs. Capta?
Aye.
Mr. Eby?
Aye.
Ms. Trowbridge?
Aye.
And Mrs. Glah.
Aye. So it passes unanimously. We're down to the action discussion agenda. We have a presentation for the overnight wrestling trip.
Did you say wrestling?
Yes.
Okay. Come on up, Charlie. Good evening, everybody. Dina Henry, the athletic director. This is Charlie Combs, our wrestling coach. So Charlie submitted a trip itinerary. He is aspiring to travel to Florida with his team. So we are here to answer any questions that you have about that trip. Anything that
Why
you-
all the way to Florida? Can't we find something equivalent closer to home?
I mean, I was born and raised down there, so there's some personal component to it. When I took the job at CV, I wanted to bring our team to, that sort of next upper echelon. I've been a coach as an assistant at places where we've been nationally ranked, having kids go on to the D1 level. To do that, I feel like you've got to get out of your region, get out of your area. Last year, we really didn't travel much. We went to Dina's old high school, which is one of our 2 in-season overnight trips.
And I didn't schedule it because of that. It was
No,
just
she
there.
was just there. So I want to go to my old high school now. No, but it's it's important for not only to continue our growth. I think we took a good step in that direction. We had a really good season last year, and just wanting to get out of our area. And it's a really great event. It's an event my dad started in '81. I competed at it many, many times. Pardon me for seeming tired. I literally just got back there from Florida this morning, so a little tired, but and perfectly dressed for the occasion. Yeah, and we had a tournament that we hosted at CV that was a dual tournament where we had Tampa Jesuit come up. Tampa Jesuit's old head coach. They have one of the best teams in the nation. They've got kids right now wrestling at the NCAA level at Virginia Tech, West Point. They're like where you want to set your bar. And they're going to be at this event. Like I said, they came up to CV this year. We've got a really good relationship. I've been on hundreds of overnight trips all over the country. So it's not anything new for me. I'm very confident that we would represent well. Kids, our grades are great, wouldn't be missing but maybe one day of school. So we'd be back on Sunday.
I do want to let you know that I was impressed with the application. We get too many that don't let us understand what it is we're approving. This was a comprehensive application, and I appreciate that. Beyond that, is there nothing closer that would allow them to have that step up in competitiveness? And I'll be really frank, over the years,
Sure.
I've listened to too many presentations where it was, as you say, a personal.
No, so
It's like, this is my brother's team, and I want to play my brother's team.
Sure. No, it's beyond that. I mean, I've always said no one's bigger than the program. For our program to get on to that next step, I feel like we have to get out of our region. So if it's not Florida, we got invited to a tournament in Ohio that's called Beast of the East. It's a meat grinder. I mean, it's probably one of the top 3 tournaments in the country. I don't know if we're there yet, but that would be traveling on, buses for 10, 12 hours or whatnot. I mean, so we'd still be getting out of our area. It'd still be our goal. I'd be presenting Ohio to you instead of Florida.
So this is not an overreach by any means.
Oh, gosh, no.
I hope you appreciate my concern because I see too many of these trips.
No, and it's, when I was at Springside High School, which is where I coached down in Florida, there was, I think you're limited to 2 overnight or 2 out-of-state trips. We always had 2 out-of-state trips on our agenda. But we were also a team that was ranked top 10 in the country. We won several state titles when I was down there. And again, better yet, our kids, were always moving on to the next level. And if it wasn't going to wrestling in college, it was always being, a manager at a company or, CEO at a company or leaders in our community. I mean, our wrestlers, as you guys know, they're never in trouble. Their grades are good. Coach Turner, I was really blessed to walk into a great situation. And for our team on the mat, for us to, take that next step, I do think we need to be out of our region for sure.
And this is our next closest step.
Geographically, it would not be our next closest step, but in terms of where we're at in a tournament that I think, I do think that. I think that would be correct.
I just want to make sure that the quality of the geography.
Tampa Jesuit, we finished the regular season 15-1.
Yeah.
They beat us 58-12, so they're pretty good. And we're going. They wonon't take it lightly on us. So I think it'd be really beneficial. It would check every box of benefit.
I appreciate you coming to
Sure.
explain that. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I was just curious, how many are going?
Florida has 14 weight classes. Pennsylvania has 13. So we would have 13 unless a miracle kid came in and filled a. We're not just going to bring a 14th kid just to fill a slot. Weight classes are a little different, but nothing that will change our math. But it would be 13 kids, 2 coaches,
Okay.
plus
so
any
just-
parents that went.
Okay, so you would have parents
Oh,
possibly
yeah,
as
I've already
chaperones?
talked, obviously, we haven't put that on our schedule, but, it's something that, they're aware. I mean, our kids' parents travel pretty well.
Anyone else? We are requested to approve this tonight. So if you're all comfortable with it, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the overnight wrestling trip.
I second.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Have a safe trip.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Wear a different shirt the next time.
What's that? I'm pretty close to missing the game tonight, by the way. So.
I got my Ravens hat.
You didn't have a say in the vote, though. Thankfully, I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
Yep, thank you.
The next issue is the Penn Health on-site clinic discussion, which is something the board has looked at in the past. and sort of passed on because we weren't ready. It's come back to us again. Randy Smith, is Mr. Smith here? Come join in case there are any questions. I'm told you're our only resource for questions, so.
Oh, no, we have a couple of resources here.
Okay, we'll start with you.
Gotta go over here.
We'll start with
I don't have the checking account.
We had this presentation given to us a few weeks ago, and I went through it and came up with like dozens of questions, not all of which are for you.
Okay.
Okay. A lot of it had to do with financing and costs and so forth. But I'll open it up to the board for there any specific questions you'd like addressed.
And I just wanted to mention before we start, reason we put this on the board agenda tonight was just because we didn't have time to really have a public conversation about it after the presentation. We are not at a point where we're looking for any type of decision. We just want that opportunity to kind of allow all of you to ask questions, for us to make some comments. Not only is Randy here, Adele's been involved in some of the meetings with Penn Health. So is Tara Flick, our association president. You know, it was kind of something that we all thought was something at least worth looking into a little bit more, not only for the cost savings, but just for the level of service that it would provide. So we are looking for some direction as far as whether, even if we're not looking to approve at this point, can we go down the avenue of doing some costing out, pursuing some further conversations with Penn Health? That's kind of where we're at. So this is really just an open forum. If you'd like more information, even some direction of should we bring the representatives from Penn Health back in to present more information to the board. So we're here to take any questions. Some of them we might not be able to answer, but we can take those certainly back, or just look for some direction for our next steps from the board.
I would ask, are we looking at an open or an exclusive location?
That's up to you and your decision. I would like open, because that means, also too, you can generate some revenue with some rent and some income. Because when it's open, we can allow other people to come in, and that would generate some revenue. But first, I think maybe taking the first step is for our own employees. Because the first step would be mainly just for our employees and taking care of our employees first. But I think maybe the ultimate goal would be then to go to the outside.
One of the things they recommended was you can start with open until you see some of that revenue starting to build, and then tighten it up if you want to. Once we start to see some of those cost savings rolling in.
Right.
I was a little hesitant when I first heard about it. I'm like, open, does that mean there's gonna be people in and out that aren't associated with the district all day long? But when they explained how they schedule their appointments and how they
45
cap the
minutes.
amount of people at any time. Are
They
gonna
only
be,
need 3 parking spaces.
Yeah.
I'm
They
sorry.
only need 3 parking places, the patient and 2 employees.
That open is what bothered me because it's a 700 person maximum. Does that mean at some point we have people in the district that are more privileged than others? I've got a problem with that attitude.
Yeah, I think if you go the first step to see what we have internally first, before we make that jump to that cap.
But the idea is if that's well received,
Right,
you're gonna reach a point where you tell other people, no, not you. It's closed now.
okay,
That I'm not real comfortable with.
okay.
Yeah, would have
I don't
to-
think any of the places ever got to that point that was shared with Scott and Teak with me, that they've ever got to a point where they had to turn people away.
No, I'm just gonna say, because I'm hearing like 2 very different perspectives
Okay.
there. So I need that to make sense.
All right,
Like what would be the best avenue to go, to start out with? And my other bigger question, and I mean bigger like overarching question is, and maybe Tara, you can have some input, what is the level of interest with the staff?
we don't know, I think Tara would be able to answer that better than me. Yeah, because she's been involved with every step of the way.
Yeah, come on up.
Yeah.
We'll slowly fill that table up.
So it feels like it's been years since we first started talking about some kind of clinic. whether it was gonna be on-site or off-site or shared at the IU because the IU's had a clinic.
Yeah,
I mean, I've lost track for
That was-
years now.
2013.
Yeah, so I am super excited and I try to do my best to train all of the teachers that I work with that we are self-funded. And so anything we can do as a district to lower cost is win-win. It lowers it for you, which lowers it for the taxpayers in the end in some manner or form, and it lowers it for us, right? So the clinic is one of the ways to do that. And the convenience of it, the fact that not only could someone, like if we would have the clinic like at the old district office, I could go there, but I live the southern end of the county. There's a branch in Willow Street that would be open to me to go. So I think it's an incredible benefit for teachers, and I think it's a great way for us to be one of those districts on the cutting edge to help reduce our healthcare costs, because they are just going up.
Yeah.
Right? So everything we can do to do that.
I appreciate that, but have you gotten a feel for what the teachers and staff, are they gonna use it? I guess is the bottom line. I mean, you
Yes.
can say all day long, yes, it's gonna benefit, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But they might have their PCP.
We just have to be realistic and know, like I just mentioned, like, there's a chance that I won't walk into the CV one, right? Depending on what's going on. Like if I'm using it to get a physical, I might do that at my end of the world, right?
No, I get that.
But if I'm, I have a sore throat and I just want to say, I just hope it's not strep throat and I want to run over and it's convenient and I don't have to miss work to do it, I can maybe run over during my planning. I think that people will see it as a benefit. The other thing that I like, that we discovered partly through wellness and our wellness program, is that were a large number of teachers who didn't even have a primary care physician.
Right.
From a wellness perspective, I hate that. I hate that someone doesn't have a primary care physician. And I think this would be yet another way to encourage people to have a routine, consistent person that they're going for their basic healthcare needs. And then down the line, we talked about rolling our wellness program in to being there, doing our pre-employment physicals. You start thinking about all the little tiny things that could broaden this, and in a way that makes it a benefit both to the district and employees. Now, here's what I can tell you, and I know this just when we go over our wellness numbers, we have a super high percent that participate, and I expect the exact same thing. If you lay it out, you make it convenient for people and they see the value in it, why wouldn't you do it?
Okay, I just wanna make sure there's buy-in before we start entertaining.
And I spoke with the other HR directors too, and the employees are buying into it. The one key thing, there was 3 things that came out of it. There's like this relationship they built with that person. They know each other. They spent like 45 minutes. So the relationship that they built with that person is more than just in and out, here's your pill, go. The other one is they teach you how to get healthy and stay healthy, more of the line of the wellness piece, not just, I'm conveniently, just don't take care of yourself, come over here whenever you want to. And the other one too is they were saying how the convenience it was. If I have to go down to her end of town and take half a sick day, then I gotta get a half a day sub. Whereas they are going on their break or making it more convenient for them, that they don't have to take a full day off to run around to all their doctor's appointments.
So I guess maybe I need to rephrase that. How what would the plan be to get the buy-in? Because I get all the benefits, like I hear what you're saying, I get it, but how can you guarantee the buy-in?
I don't know if there's a guarantee.
Yeah.
Wanna come up?
And Diane, the other thing too is I don't mind, I could send a survey out to people. Like if you want me just to
I feel like I need
just
a better
to,
feel for like what
hey,
other
if the
people
district considers an on-site clinic, is that something that would appeal to you? You think you could make use of without a whole lot of detail? They've heard us talking about it over the
Before we get
years.
started, I was on the IU board back when they brought theirs in.
Yeah, me too.
And nobody else had one back then.
Nope, they were the first.
And we went through months of discussions finally got it set up, it did well, then it started to fall in space. And they started all over again, and buy-in was not the problem.
What was the problem?
The company we were with.
Was way out, it was Idaho or
Well,
somewhere?
they were unable to keep a stable
Right.
medical professional in
Yep.
the office. And there were other issues I won't get into, but the convenience became an immediate buy-in. Come out of work, go get your flu shot, go home.
I would just,
I-
that would be great,
along
if you
with
could
other
do
things.
something of that nature at some point, just so that I could, or
Yeah.
that we could.
Yeah, because when we first talked about this, one of the things I had wanted to do was bring the IU in to talk to us about how it works, how you sell it, because they had real life experience with it. Because I wasn't crazy over it when they first brought it in there. And I still do have some concerns, but the money saving aspect is probably the most breathtaking. We'll get into that with you.
And Diane, to your question as to what is the motivation for employees to use this clinic, the district would be paying a per employee per month cost. Estimated, I think in this presentation, was about $59 per employee per month of the employees that sign up for this. The motivation for the employee is they don't have a charge. They don't pay anything towards out or coming out of their HSA account. So that's the motivation. They don't have to spend any of that money. It doesn't hit our books as far as the claims cost because we're already paying that each month, $59 or so. So that is part of the motivation there.
And people would choose to do it. So like if we have a teacher that doesn't want to be part of this, the district doesn't pay for that person
Right.
and then they're not part of it. So I feel like there's this like intentional buy-in for someone that's like, no, I have my doctor, or this is where I go, I don't want to change it. This is where my kids go, whatever the reason may be.
I think to a degree, this might go back to your confusion from earlier between what I was saying and what Randy was saying. I think that's why when they were here, they recommended this. We can do what we want, they'll work with us. But one of the reasons they lean towards starting as that open clinic is because you're not going to have 300 people in month one signed up for it.
Right.
It is going to be a little bit of word of mouth, and obviously we'll do some PR. We would, if we were to go down this road, do some PR on it. But it's, their recommendation is until you build up that amount, then the savings comes from that revenue you're getting from
That
being
makes
an
more sense.
yeah, from being an open campus. Then if we hit that tipping point where we have enough of our people doing it that we're seeing those cost savings, we can say, at this point, we think we're gonna be a closed, campus.
That makes more sense to me.
That's, I think, why they made that recommendation.
Okay, I have a couple things. So fit out a space, almost $500,000, that's us to pay to renovate that for them to come in. And then primary care only, even annual expense exclusive on-site practice, you're looking at $500,000 a year.
Correct, versus
For
the
that.
private, yes.
And are we gonna be looking at a contract with Penn Medicine for pharmaceutical, because you go get a script? I'm understanding we use Express Scripts. CD does not have a contract with Penn Medicine, so that benefit of having your scripts hand-delivered here, given to you, that's out. You can't do that, because you don't have a contract with Penn Health with CD.
That's a good question, we can look into that.
Yeah.
Because I know that the on-site clinic would have about approximately 30 of the most common types of medicines that are prescribed.
But you'd be paying out of
There,
pocket. They would be paying out of pocket because there's no
no contract.
contract for pharmaceuticals. And my concern with that with the hours, if it's open during school hours, yes, you can go on your break to get seen. But that would go, do you get priority being a CV if we're in open, other people are coming in? Then you're looking at parking, it's right there at the high school and those doors with open community. So that is a concern I have, the security and parking and staff being able to be seen on their breaks to get in.
They do have flex hours, so one day it might be like 7:30 to 4, another day it might be 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock. I think we could probably arrange that at whatever times we wanted.
Right.
My question is the outlay of money. How many years would it take to recoup that savings, or will it never be? So if we were to, I ran some numbers. Again, this is all hypothetical numbers based on what they're providing us. If we were to go with the open plan, we could potentially, without taking into account the cost for the renovations, we could potentially break even, the first year. We just have to have, this is going to be our target number of participation of employees for each week. But you have a very good point, and I agree 100%. The capital outlay that they're estimating is $413,000. Now, I had a call into Teak, and he was at a conference, so I did not get a chance to hook up with him and talk to him yet. One of the questions I want to find out is, what degree does that $413,000 go? Because we do know we already need renovations at the old district office. Are there additional costs, or the costs that they're proposing just to take a room and fit it to meet their clinic's needs? I also spoke to some other school districts, and this was interesting. Of all the other school districts in our area, there are no on-site clinics. They've actually gone and partnered with other groups that have clinics. Now, I don't know with all of them if they did a cost share of that capital outlay or not, or what that looked like. So yes, there would have to be a longer-term agreement to make up that $413,000 plus.
What about maintenance of the site? And
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I know IT and tech is them.
Yes, I would think maintenance would be them as well, but that's a good clarifying question.
And I don't know if it has any impact on utilities or not.
Sure, to some degree, but
I'd also like to know what their track record is on maintaining a standard employee base. People like going back to they know the people, and if every time you go, it's different people. That doesn't engender a lot of confidence.
I don't remember the specifics, but in one of our initial meetings, I remember them talking about some of their earlier clinics, that they're still being staffed by the same people. I mean, I think if anybody has like a relative, or if you yourself are in healthcare, like to me, if I was a nurse practitioner, this is the place I'd want to work. Like a place where you're seeing fewer patients, right? 700 is roughly their max, compared to twice that if you work in a family doctor office.
And do they pay comparable?
I mean, as far as I know. It's always like, to me, it's sort of like, I'd take less money if I enjoyed my job more.
Unfortunately, I'm not applying.
It's pretty easy.
Make a note of that.
Yeah, take note of that next contract.
You're gonna have to make me really enjoy it.
What's the contract length that they, is it 5 years, or what do they typically do?
And some of my notes, 3 or 5 years.
Okay. Are there any other like practices or groups, UPMC or anything like that are doing something similar?
That's on my list, that if you want us to look further into this, that we would want to be contacting some of the other groups to find out and get proposals and information from them.
You talked about schools co-opting where there's already one. Is there already one near us?
There's not, I think that's why they were kind of.
That's what we're the target now.
Yeah, they have companies, there are several companies, part of their network that are in Greenfield, but they don't have
No
there's
on
no
site.
clinic there.
There's no clinic,
Yeah.
no.
When they showed that map where they put,
Yeah.
we'd sort of be,
And that map
Three to
keeps
5
updating
years,
every time we
yeah.
see it.
3 to 5 years hardly seems enough time to recoup our costs for conversion.
Was that not Penman that they just put down there in Leola on 23 across from like Funk's?
Where's
That wasn't on,
That's Leola family was an independent practice.
Oh, was
that
independent?
taken over by LGH a few years ago.
Is that who, okay.
Can I backtrack a little to something Diana mentioned? Does this not include a pharmacy? Or it includes a limited pharmacy?
Very limited.
Okay, what about labs? I know with the IU early on, the biggest saving was in cost of prescriptions and lab tests.
I know they'll do tests like for strep throat or something like that. I'm not sure about actually the blood draws, but as I'm saying that too, if we were to partner with them with their wellness, they would do the biometric screening, flu shots.
It does
So I
say,
would think they might do.
Yeah, I don't
Access to
remember
it.
anymore just how extensive the IUs was, but I know when we looked at the numbers, the savings there was huge. I mean, a test that you would pay $280 for, we were getting done for $32.
so one of their,
And that builds up quickly.
one of their featured services listed as EKGs, labs, and point of care tests.
Okay, I'd like to know just how extensive that is.
Yeah, and
the
what the
lab.
like Diana was saying, what the out-of-pocket cost is, because if we don't have, I totally get what you're saying, I didn't know that. If we don't have a contract with pharmacy, we're gonna be paying out of pocket.
Yeah.
For whatever drug it is, whether it's basic or not.
And I will
Sorry.
say their pharmacy service, they do, I mean, my husband's the LGH pharmacist. He does the pre-auth, he does the, hey, this is coming due, he does all that ahead of time, so all you have to do is fill it. And they do deliver, they do overnight, they do all that stuff, but you need a contract with him. And like the convenience pharmacy, it's amazing perk, you can get like Tylenol for $1 or $2 versus CVS is whatever, $10. So like there is a lot of perks, but you need to look and see what the contract and that cost is to get all the whole slide.
Any other questions, focus areas? I think we're gonna be talking about this several times before we make a move. And the farther we get into it, the more questions we'll have. And the more specific we go into what numbers from you.
I called a business that has one of these offices, you know, in their business, and he said the employees love it. You know, they can go in there, you know, basically anytime. He said they really utilize it. There's, I think, 3 or 4 other businesses that, you know, their employees can use that one. And yeah, he didn't have the numbers for me, you know, as far as savings and things like that, but as from the employee perspective, he said they love it.
Yeah, I know, again, to go back to the IU, if they found themselves feeling bad during the workday, and thinking, gee, I think I'm coming down with something, they would just stop there on their way home, or even over their lunch hour. It made a difference in absenteeism, and I don't think getting employees to appreciate the convenience is the problem. And from what you say, that's the way it was there,
Yeah.
And I think in the world of teacher shortages, this is yet another benefit to advertise. Because, you know, again, we'll be on the top bar of that, because not all districts have it. And so just yet another marketing tool to say, hey, this is what CV does. BEXA, the kind of mammogram alternative that we've been doing, I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and said, when's the next date? When can we do this? It's been incredible. And that kind of stuff goes a long way for just feeling like you're working for a place that cares about you in multiple ways, including making sure that we're all as healthy as possible.
Any other concerns right now? I advise you to go through that proposal that before with a fresh eye and come up with questions. Perhaps you'd even want to write them down so we can provide them with a whole list of what questions we want them to be prepared to answer. I think that would be helpful to keep the discussion going. Just, you know, type them up on a Word doc and send them in.
Shall we email you?
We'll put them all together and see if we can have a more focused discussion. I don't wanna have us going back and forth on all these pages, going from services to costs to renovations to contracts. I'd like us to move forward with each discussion focused on one thing. That's why, with me, I was hoping that if we had this presented again, that we could ask questions as they went, so we're not jumping all over the place. That gives us all a clearer picture of exactly what we're dealing with. Any other concerns? Thank you, and we will try to gather up specific questions so you know where we want you to go next.
Good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on to the information agenda. Are there any questions on the finance and operations report? I have one from Mrs. Hunsinger. Are we going to get a budget calendar?
It's included in that section.
I looked for it and couldn't find it.
That's right. It was added today.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't me. All right, thank
I
you.
failed to mention that, but it was added this morning.
Okay, I'll go back in and get a look at that calendar. I advise all of you to get a look at that calendar, so you sort of know what's coming up at each meeting. Any comments on the curriculum and instruction reports? Dr. Hartman, anything with federal funds?
Not this evening.
Not this evening. Then I'll move on to reports, and I'll start with my own, the IU reports. They are pretty much what you would have expected. There are a couple things I want to add to the IU report. They are having a keynote webinar series for those of us, which is all of us, that couldn't make it to conference. If the titles of any of those keynote addresses interest you, you can sign up for a webinar to listen to those keynotes. They also have a program through the PSBA Trust. If any of you are interested, they have signed a 3-year cohort agreement with a state in Germany, and we've already sent one group there. They study academics, operations, facilities, and culture. If you're interested, I don't know why for such a huge commitment, they don't give us more time to think about it, but the application is due this month. And I will tell you, there is a cost. You have to make a financial contribution of $500 minimum. And they will cover most everything else. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that program if you're interested in it. Other than that, I don't think there's anything especially new in that.
And that was for what, the $500?
The trip to Germany. They will.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, they have, and this is not PSBA membership money, this is from the trust. But I think if they really wanted to attract the full membership to participate, they'd have given you a little bit of time. The trip itself is in March, and there's a stipend to help for your costs from where you live to where your airport would be. But the airfare and all of your expenses there are covered by the trust. The other thing is that I would assume, I don't know, I didn't look at the detail, but I would have liked to have a report back from the first group that went. And unless they did that at conference, which only reached a limited number of people, it has not been shared yet. But I think it's an interesting opportunity if it's something you can afford, and both financially and time-wise. But I wanted to bring that to your attention. Other than that, the IU report is sort of self-explanatory. And the Lancaster Academy, I'll bring to your attention in that report that we are having a January graduation, something we haven't had enough to do, and there will be 5 CV graduates at that one. So I'll give you the exact date when we're absolutely sure of it. But that's, I think it's the 25th. I think it's probably in my report. And considering we have 5 CV graduates, it would be nice if some of us were there. CTC, Mr. Hurst, have you anything to report?
Not other than, thank you, Marilyn, for attaching that annual report, which I completely dropped the ball in sending you. Had some good information in there if you have time to read that and look over that, but not other than that.
Does the construction team have anything to bring to us? No, you didn't have a meeting.
There wasn't a
tonight.
meeting.
Nothing happening yet. Okay, well, no news is good news sometimes. Any other reports from committees any of you attended? If not, is there a vice president's report?
Not tonight.
Are there any board concerns or initiatives that you wanted to bring up? I would remind those that have signed up for the delegate assembly that you should have received your initial information about that. The dates for next month's meeting are listed. And we now have public comments on any issues, and I understand Mr. Landis has petitioned the board for time to be actually on the agenda, and that gives you 10 minutes of our time. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Glad to be here. My name's Jerry Landis. I'm a 1967 graduate of this high school. I'm here representing the 1967 CV boys basketball team. I'm here to present this scrapbook to Dr. Hartman and to the school district, and I'll get into that more. The 1967 boys basketball team is part of an historic period in CV boys basketball. The team members were Mike Heisey, Dave Landis, Rick Caroselli, Jim Landis, Dick Allen, Jerry Landis, Jerry Espenshade, Tom Trier, and Mike Schell. Some additional history. The 1965 team was 19-1. The 1966 team was 22-1. The 1967 team was 19-2. A 60-win and 4-loss record for 3 years. Back then, it was the Lancaster County Basketball League with 2 sections. For those 3 years, CV won the Section 2 title and the Lancaster County Championship, beating the Section 1 champions. CV won 35 consecutive Section 2 games and a total of 56 straight regular season games. In the 1967 Lancaster County Championship game, CV won over Penn Manor 76-42. We tied 2 championship records, total points in a title game, 76, and winning margin, 34 points. I'm presenting this scrapbook to Dr. Hartman and the CV district as a historical record of the accomplishments of the 1967 CV basketball team on behalf of the 1967 Conestoga Valley boys team. Here's a little history regarding the scrapbook compiled by Mike Heisey, a teammate. And just to show you a little bit, he has all the articles from the newspaper, and I'll mention this again, but it's in here in chronological order, so it's an actual history of that 1967 season. Mike Heisey's mother collected clippings
from the Lancaster Intelligencer Journal and New Era newspapers for the entire season for 1966-67, the year-end playoffs for the 65-66 team, and county championship for 1964-65. Also part of the scrapbook is Alan Uetta's State Wrestling Championship in 1966. He was a classmate of mine. The clippings were kept in a manila envelope for over 50 years, during which time they survived several relocations and a house fire in 1978, at which time Mike took possession of the envelope. In 2020, during COVID, Mike decided to create this scrapbook by organizing and laminating the newspaper articles and photos in a chronological order so that it is an historical account of the 66-67 season. Once completed, Mike showed it to me and my twin brother, Jim, and we suggested presenting the scrapbook to the school, and Mike agreed, as long as it could be displayed so that it can be viewed by students, faculty, and public. We wanted the historical account of the 66-67 season to remain with the school district. Two of our teammates are now deceased. So we're all, the team as today is all 75 years old or 74 years old, senior and junior class. Included in the book is a flash drive in the folder with files in PDF format of all the newspaper articles and photos that are in the scrapbook. And it could also be used as a video presentation. I want to show you the first page of that year. Conestoga Valley is a favorite again. The coach at that time, Bob Souders, said at the beginning of the season, we're terrible. We went on to win the county championship. And it's in chronological order, so it's an actual history with pictures. And at the back, there's also news articles on the 66 basketball championship, the 65 championship, and Al Uetta's state champion wrestling. So I'd like to present this to Dr. Hartman to keep here in the school. I'm not sure how to best make it available, as Mike wanted, to students, faculty, and public, but if nothing can be done, I'd really like to see it maybe just placed with the 1966-67 trophy.
Together and we'll figure something out.
Okay, thank
We
you.
cannot thank you enough for being with us. May I ask, is Mr. Heisey still with us?
Yes, he lives in Gettysburg and he could not make it tonight.
Will you please convey our thanks to him for his work in putting this together and preserving this?
Sure.
Civic history is important.
Yeah, he did a lot of work.
And from the list of names you read, did the Landises own that team?
Well, we had 3 on it.
It seemed as if there were a lot of
My brother, my twin Jim was a board member here 30 years ago.
Yeah, I remember him.
30 years ago, I think.
Yeah, I remember Jim. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. What a great way to end the meeting.
Yeah, that's cool, yes.
If there be no other concerns or issues, we're going to adjourn to executive session to address personnel issues and issues we are legally required to according to purpose. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn to executive session.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.